As I sat here reading the post, I was reminded of memories that I hoped would never resurface. Amy. My ever-loving and devoted cheating ex-wife is now the head of my department, is my immediate supervisor. How ironic. I should have known something like this would happen, but I was just glad to be out of the marriage. Now it's back and haunting me with tenfold force. Amy said I was a heart attack just waiting for a time and place, and she was right. My doctor warned me, but I didn't pay much attention to it, thinking that whatever I was doing wasn't so bad. After all, everyone works hard to provide for their family, don't they? I knew Amy was ambitious, that she had many needs and wants. Take that huge mansion we lived in, the pool in the backyard, the country club membership that dusted in a drawer of her home office that neither of us had time to use. And it was my job to provide? Or so I was raised. Now the love of my life would be running my life again. It was the final step that brought me out of my apathy, as there was no way I could have even considered working under her. Not after finding out how many men she had had, and maybe she was still working under them? I finished tucking the last pieces into the box and picked up my resignation letter, leaving the office for the last time. Tossing the letter, cell phone, car keys, and credit card on Megan's desk, I commented, "It's been a pleasure working with you, Megan. I really wish you the best. You are a very valuable employee, and I want to thank you for all your help. Take care of yourself, and don't let that bitch bully you. If she bothers you, I authorize you to use me as a threat to get a fair settlement." "So you're leaving, Sam? It's not just an empty threat?" she asked, waving my letter in front of her face. "Yes, Megan, you know as well as I do that I can't work for her. I can't work with someone I don't respect, and as you know too, with all those horrible details, she killed any chance I had of respecting her. I'm going to miss you, Sam. You know she'll be furious when she finds out you up and left. She's been pestering me for weeks about your workload and schedule. I didn't say anything to her, but I felt like I was stabbing you in the back. I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." I smiled. "Don't worry about it. You have to protect your job, and you can't say anything that would change the situation one iota." I knew what the writing was on the wall when that merger memorandum came in. I've done nothing here that needed to be kept secret, as you know very well. What am I to do? What do I tell her when she asks where you are? I grinned. Tell her everything you know, tell her the truth. She won't be able to tie her panties in a knot over it. Do what she wants as long as it doesn't destroy your own values. "It was my pleasure, honey. I'll keep in touch with you, I promise," I said, shaking her hand and kissing the back of it. I was just getting into my car when a black limousine pulled up to the office building, and Amy got out with two well-dressed men, looking, by all accounts, like a high-ranking, unprincipled businesswoman. However, in reality, we all know more than that. She is nothing more than a highly paid escort with a title. Amy looked very professional in her business suit. However, she always looked good in any outfit. She looked around but didn't notice me, which was just what I needed. I sat for another minute or two to let her enter the building before pulling out of the parking lot for the last time. I had already settled my business, sold what I needed to sell, and put everything else in storage. My doctor said I needed a change of scenery, and I finally decided to take his advice. I spent the next 3 months traveling, sightseeing, and taking a break from the stresses of work. Eventually, I found myself in a small town located on this side of the void. The climate here was temperate, the residents were friendly, and the fishing was excellent. I rented a small 3-bedroom cottage with a workshop annex next to the lake with an option to buy out. It had everything I needed to start a new life. As I sat on the back porch sipping a cold drink, I thought for the first time about how Amy had taken my disappearance. I decided to call Megan the next day to see how my sudden departure was taken. "Hey Megan, it's Sam. How are things going at the salt mine?" "Sam, I'm so glad to hear from you. Or I was beginning to worry that you had disappeared off the face of the earth." I laughed out loud, sitting on my deck and watching the water lazily beat against my private pontoon. "Not quite gone, but the view from here is spectacular to say the least. I wish you were here. How's it going out there?" "My goodness, Sam. You certainly know how to launch a cat among the pigeons." Amy was on a roll. She'd been going around the company like a packet of salt, and layoffs were happening left, right, and center. Kevin Paxton quit last week after a confrontation with her. I don't know what it was about, but she moved him from the logistics department to the archives department. Essentially moved him to a windowless office in the basement, And as you can imagine, Kevin couldn't take it, tendered his resignation, and left. I'm very sorry to hear that. Kevin was a good man, probably one of the best in his field. What the hell is this woman doing? If she's not careful, she'll sink the ship before she even gets it out of the harbor. How is she with you? I heard Megan chuckle. In a nutshell, Sam is frustrated as hell. She tried to fire me that first day because I let you go before she had a chance to talk to you. Like I could stop you. And I told her so. Then she told me that since I didn't have a boss anymore, I wasn't needed and to pack my stuff and get the hell out. I stood there and told her she could try to fire me. I will send you and the company to court so fast you won't have time to put on makeup before your court appearance. I told her what you said and she went silent, like it never occurred to her that her slut on top would come back and bite her in the ass. Megan giggled again and then continued. So now, I'm the secretary to the bitchy executive vice president in charge of operations. I guess it has something to do with keeping your enemies closer than your friends. I told her I expect a substantial pay raise along with the promotion. I guess she wasn't happy about that either, because she just grinned. But in the end, I got what I wanted. Megan was telling me all the latest gossip. On one hand, I was pleased that my leaving had affected Amy's plans. Don't get me wrong, I changed my life for my own good because it was something I had to do, and Amy's appearance was the kick in the ass I needed to end the procrastination. This last event was the icing on the cake, so to speak. However, I was worried that it would end up affecting everyone else, and that was not my intention. The next morning, I ran out of sugar, so I decided to stop by a small store nearby. Their lot borders mine, with an open paddock in between. As I exited the store, I almost bumped into a young couple, and after apologizing, I saw a highly agitated woman in her early 20s standing behind the counter. Can I help you? She asked, as the baby made herself known, whimpering irritably just as several cars stopped at the gas stations out front. The woman sighed. Where the hell is Jillian when I need her? I smiled and asked, Can I help you? My name is Sam and I live nearby. I think Junior needs to be fed and I need some sugar. I don't have anything special, so if I can help until you're done or until Jillian gets here, I'd be happy to. Why don't I take care of the ones in there and you take care of your baby in the meantime? The woman smiled and replied, My name is Vivian, and I would really appreciate Sam's help. I got out of the car and took care of the travelers while they filled their tanks. I washed the windshield and generally chatted with them, and when I got back from the road and put their money next to the cash register, another customer came in and started looking around the store. I took the time to walk over and chat with him. What can I do for you, sir? Just looking at your selection of fishing rods, he replied. I'm on a business trip, and I had to take my car in for repairs, and it looks like it's going to be an all-day job. I figured I'd do a little fishing to pass the time. I noticed he looked like a businessman, and it could have been me in his shoes a year ago. He was going to buy some cheap rods and reels, so I asked, Do you fish a lot? The guy shook his head. Not really, although I'd like to if I could find the time. I smiled. I was good at this, and then proceeded to convince him that buying something more expensive would greatly improve his chances of catching fish and enjoying his vacation more. I dealt with a dozen other shoppers before Vivian was able to settle her daughter into her seat after feeding her. Thank you so much, Sam. Why is it that things only get troublesome when you can least afford it? Bessie doesn't usually fuss at this time of day, and Jillian is always already here. I grinned. To explain that, I'd have to explain quantum mechanics, and since I have no idea what quantum mechanics is, you'll just have to make an educated guess. Maybe you and your husband should hire more reliable help. The words made Vivian's face contort, and I noticed it. I'm sorry, I think I said something wrong. Please accept my apology. Vivian looked at me with sad eyes with a single tear frozen in the corners. Sam, it's not your fault, but I'm a widow. Vivian told me that her husband, Greg, was in the Army Reserves and had been killed during maneuvers. She said that the truck he was in had flipped over and killed him. The worst part is that Greg didn't even know he was going to be a father. Bessie was most likely conceived the night before he left. Vivian wiped the tears from her face with the back of her palm and continued. I think he would have been a good father. He had so many ideas, and this place is one of them. Vivian waved her hand, pointing to the store and the land it was located on. And over the next few weeks, I made it a habit to go to the store and help out whenever I could. I know what you're all thinking, and you're probably right. Vivian was a beautiful woman, and my hormones hadn't been satisfied in a long time, but more than that, it gave me back my sense of self-worth. What hurt me the most was the realization that Amy's cheating showed that she didn't need me, that she didn't think I was capable of providing adequately for the family, that she didn't believe or trust my abilities. That was the last insult I had to endure. I think Vivian saw my need to give back, and although she never asked me for help directly, she never refused if I offered and always remarked how much she appreciated my support. I began to feel good about our time together, and she was fun, caring, and appreciative, which was fine with me. I was on my way home after another day of work at the store when my cell phone broke into my thoughts. Hi, you're lucky you're not Sam's secretary. You wouldn't last a day with your cell phone. A woman's voice purred in my ear. Hi, Megan. I'm sorry, but you caught me off guard for a minute. It's almost 7 o'clock at night. Do you have something urgent? Megan sobered up and stated, I had to wait until I got home to call, because I don't know if that bitch boss is tapping my work phone or not, but I didn't want to take any chances. And Sam, that's why I'm calling. You need to be on your guard. I'm calling to warn you. She put a PI on your tail. She asked me to put him onto you, and I really can't not do it and keep my job. But I figured if I warned you, you could lay low and go unnoticed for a while. I sighed. Has this woman made it her personal mission in life to follow me to the grave? I don't know, Sam. All I know is that she's at her limit. She spends terrible hours trying to turn this place over, and I think it's gotten her down. She looks 10 years older and has gained a good dozen pounds. Well, she can't be pregnant. Well, maybe she could be, but not by me anyway. I heard Megan giggle again on the other end. No, I'm sure it's from overexertion. Too many comfort trips to the freezer for ice cream, I'd say. You can see it in her face and the tops of her arms. She's starting to swell up. She's frantic to find you and has assigned the task to me, citing that it's my fault you left before she had a chance to talk to you. Jesus, good. I can see that ignoring her is useless. Here's what I think you can do. Give her a week, then go to her with a fake report that they couldn't find me, but are sure the cell phone is genuine. Then tell her you already called and convinced me to talk to her. Megan must have heard the excitement in my voice. Are you sure, Sam? I don't feel like doing this with you at all. Don't worry about it, Megan. You need to take care of number one, and then you can guard my six like you did. I appreciate your efforts, but don't put yourself in the line of fire. A week later, Megan texted me the morning before she left for work. PH no 2BB2 day. Be ready for call today sometime. I saw the message and grinned at the acronym. BB? Bitch boss? No? No. Oh, number? Damn these young people and their high technology. Then I thought about what to say to her. Nothing came to mind, so I decided I'd cross that bridge when I got to it. As promised, the call came in. I got Amy's cell phone number and answered, Yes, Amy, what do you need? Amy was apparently caught off guard by my slurred phrase and short greeting. What's that bitch my secretary up to? I hung up. The phone rang again. Damn it, Sam. I hung up again. When it rang the next time, Megan quickly answered, Are you going to talk to her or not? I grinned. Tell that bitch to keep a polite tongue in her head the next time she calls and manages to get more than 2 words out. I'm sick of her trying to lord it over me. Megan chuckled. My pleasure, Sam. We'll talk later. 5 minutes passed between talking to Megan and the next call. Sam? Yes, Amy. What do you need? Another pause, then. Can I talk to you for a minute? I'm listening. Another pause. Did Megan cry on your shoulder? What did she say? Megan is a very capable girl, and it doesn't matter what she said to me. That girl, your so-called secretary bitch, is the only reason you're talking to me right now. And if I were you, I'd be kissing her ass in gratitude for her help. So I'm going to ask you again. What do you want? I thought I heard a sigh. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm just a little cranky lately. I know Megan is doing a good job, and I appreciate it. I really do. I knew Amy was trying to smooth over my irritation and wondered what could have made her give up so quickly. Get to the point, Amy. You still haven't told me what you want. I heard Amy suppress a small sob. I really need to talk to you, Sam. I need your advice. I thought we were going to work together here as a team, but you quit and disappeared before I could explain things to you. I snickered irritably. I saw what the writing was on the wall, Amy. As soon as I saw the message that your company had bought out mine, I saw no point in staying and being humiliated again. So now that we've sorted everything out, have a happy life, Amy. But I doubt I'll see you here since I no longer revolve in your circles. Goodbye. No, please, Sam. Please listen. I really need to talk to you, but not over the phone, but face to face. I know I probably don't deserve it, but I'm begging you. Just half an hour, 30 minutes, to pitch my idea, and then I'll leave it up to you. Amy was almost crying into the tube when she finished. Please, Sam. I don't know who else to turn to. I gritted my teeth. All I wanted to do was hang up the phone and forget I'd ever contacted this woman in the first place. For a long time, I struggled with myself. Okay, Amy, but I'm not going to run after you, so if you need to talk, you're the one who should meet me at my office. I'll make arrangements with Megan and she'll let you know when and where. I disconnected the phone before Amy could answer, half expecting her to call back, but the phone never rang all night. Amy was annoyed. Why do I have to go through all this with Megan? Why can't you just give me Sam's address and let me drive alone? Megan gripped the steering wheel with such force that her knuckles turned white. I'm going to repeat for the last time, Amy. It's because Sam wants you to. You have to see him. He doesn't want to see you. In his words, and I quote, "My way or the highway is her choice. I don't like sitting in the car with you for hours on end any more than you do. But if he wants me to bring you, you'll have to put up with it. I have no intention of staying there while you have your little get-togethers. I'll make sure I'm gone. You can rest assured." I started chopping vegetables and herbs for the Italian sauce I was making for dinner. Megan had called 30 minutes ago to let me know it was less than an hour before they arrived, which meant they would be here in about 20 to 30 minutes. The last thing I wanted was for Amy to feel comfortable while she was here, but if I was busy while she was making her argument, it would put her at a disadvantage. 15 minutes later, I heard a knock on the front door. "It's open, come in." "Well, don't you look just like home?" Megan remarked with a genuine smile. I giggled in response to her barb. "Hi, Megan. It's good to see you too. You look good." Looking in her direction, I saw Amy standing behind her, looking visibly worried. "Amy." That was all I said, but noted how Megan assessed her health. At a glance, I noticed the bags under her eyes as well as the weight gain. Megan's assumption of 10 pounds might have been a little bitchy, but it wasn't that far from the truth. "I'm dying for a drink," Megan objected, giving me a friendly hug and a kiss on the cheek. "You're looking pretty good yourself, so the country air seems to suit you. There's wine, beer, or Coca-Cola in the fridge if you want to indulge." To prove my point, I held up my grubby hands. "Would you like something to drink?" I cast a glance at Amy. Amy couldn't help but notice the cold tone in my voice and lowered her head slightly, realizing for the first time that this meeting was going to be more difficult than she had anticipated. "Hi, Sam, and thanks. Wine would be nice. Megan's right, you look good." Megan opened a bottle of white wine, poured 2 glasses, and held one out to Amy. "Which way from the end of the world? I want to admire the view," she pointed, waving the hand in which she held the bottle of wine. "I'll leave you two alone, but remember," she said, pointing the bottle in my direction, "I'm not here to bury dead bodies or clean up a crime scene, so behave yourselves." I smiled when I heard Megan say I'd fall off the edge of the ground and pointed to the back door, commenting, "You won't have to worry with me. There's a fishing rod on the deck if you want to try your hand at it." Megan rolled her eyes. "Hardly. I wouldn't know what to do with it even if I caught it." With those words, she slipped out the door, leaving Amy and I to chat. "Take a load off and tell me why you're here." I pointed to her chair and went back to chopping herbs. Amy hesitantly sat down in the chair and looked around, trying to find a way to diffuse the situation. "Nice place you have here. Small but nice." I tensed. My irritation at her presence here was starting to come out. "This isn't small talk, Amy." I turned to the destroying basilica again. "Just talk about it, and we can both get back to our own lives." Amy suppressed a sigh and took a sip of wine to steady herself. "Can I ask one question?" I sighed. "You can ask Amy as many questions as you want. It doesn't mean I'll answer any of them, but damn it, try." "Why did you leave?" I turned to see Amy watching for any sign that I was about to explode. She probably knew that from years of living with me and guessing from my actions that I was making a huge effort to control my temper. I put the knife down and turned to Amy. "You don't need a damn bachelor's degree in rocket propulsion to understand my motives, Amy. You're a high-ranking vice president now. You must have some brains to get to where you are now. I think you can figure it out." Amy wrinkled her nose upon hearing my story of how she'd made her way into the company. and I could see her irritation rising to the surface. That was a low blow even for you, Sam. I'm perfectly capable of doing my job. What I'm not capable of doing is reading minds. I folded my arms and stared at her for a long minute. Amy looked like she was fading under my gaze. You're right, Amy. You're not a mind reader, and there are few, if any, such people, but to be effective in a job like yours, you need to be able to read people, to understand and guess their motives. That's what a good manager does. He finds the talents of his employees and utilizes them for the good of the company. That doesn't mean he does it with malicious intent. It has to be a win-win situation. Do you really want to know what I think of you and your talents, Amy? I saw a shiver run down her spine at my question. She was sure I was going to answer, and I was sure it wouldn't inspire her confidence, but apparently she decided she needed to keep the conversation going to have any chance of getting what she needed. She squared her shoulders. Okay, Sam, I'll take a bite. What do you think of my corporate talents? I almost laughed out loud at Amy's pathetic attempt at teasing me and went back to cooking. You're a bulldozer, Amy. You have the finesse of a bull in a china shop. That statement caught her off guard, and her open mouth said it all. Of all the things she thought I would say, this wasn't even on the list. Bulldozer? That was all she could say for a minute or so, and then, would you like to elaborate on that statement? I smiled inwardly as I continued to chop. Yes, Amy, bulldozer. You take the most direct path to your goal, which may not even be the path of least effort, and you don't analyze the situation. You don't look around and ask yourself who you can help, who will help you. You don't think about anyone but yourself. You don't sit back and ask yourself, what is the best thing to do? You just go forward with your head down, and heaven help anyone who gets in your way. That is why you are in an unenviable position. You have burned bridges behind you and trashed the ground before you. As she listened to my tirade, I saw a tear glisten in the corner of her eye. For the first time since I'd known her, she was confused. No, I don't want to. That was all she managed. Her weak reply said it all. Everything I did was for Sam and me, but your ego made you overlook it. I realize I hurt you, and I've told you 1,000 times I'm sorry for that. If you'd just stick around, I could have let you in on my plan. You still haven't told me why you left. I tasted the sauce and added a little more salt. I saw the writing on the wall, and I'm not stupid, Amy. I know you're here to remove Deadwood. You're the man with the axe, or woman, as the case may be, sent to remove the people who needed to be removed so the company could move forward, and I completely agree that it was necessary. All I did was make it easier for you to make those decisions. I saw the anticipation in her gaze. This was exactly what she wanted to talk about. Sam Beckman, for a smart man, you're doing something stupid. I had no intention of firing you. And if you had any semblance of intelligence, you would know that. Like I said, what I did for us. I did it so you could see all your dreams come true. It's a good trick. It tugs at my heartstrings and strokes my ego at the same time, but I never said she wasn't good at stroking. I was just annoyed that she was still stroking. I can't count the number of times we've sat in the kitchen at home with you and talked about how the fools at the top are bringing the company to its knees with their mismanagement. I believed in you, Sam. I believed in you when you said that you could get the company back on its feet. Now I have the opportunity to help you turn your ideas into reality. I knew you could do it, and I did everything I could to give you a chance. I went out of my way to tell my bosses that I could take your company to greater profits. And what did that get me? Now it's the "it's all your fault" gambit. You left me to my own devices without even giving me a chance to say what's on my mind. I keep fighting, spending long hours doing what you say can be done. All I need is a little help from the one and only man I have ever loved. It's you, Sam. I need you. The two of us can sit back and reap the rewards of our union. I love you. And this is our future arrow. I am not foolish enough to think we shall be together again, though I dream of it all the time. No, I see now that if we work at it, we can have a good business relationship and be happy. So, what do you say? How about we call a truce, start working, and together show them that we're not to be trifled with? Amy took another sip from her wine glass and leaned back in her chair. She seemed content to let me stand there and listen without interrupting her. But now her fervor had subsided. She'd made her point, and the next step was up to me. While Amy was making her speech, I had finished making the sauce and was now putting the water for the spaghetti on to boil. And the only thing I had time to think about were the last words of Julius Caesar, et tu Brutus, betrayal. These were the first thoughts that came to my mind when I first learned of her fancy for company and the reasons she gave. For all that Amy was very good looking, one thought kept me on my toes, and those three words encapsulated her past and present actions. Good Amy. A good manager considers all aspects and then decides the best course of action. Let's say I buy into your so-called brilliant plan. What makes you think I can be of any use to you? Amy's eyes flashed with annoyance at my question. I suppose it was obvious to her. I've already told you that I believe you're up to the task and that you have the authority within the company to gain the support, so to speak, of the soldiers. They trust you and respect your opinion. All of the obstacles you have faced in the past have had to do with upper management, and they have been swept away by my coming in as vice president. I don't know what you're talking about? I smiled sadly at Amy's naivete. You don't see that your very arrival at the helm has negated my effectiveness in attracting support. But I'm not surprised. And I say that because you refuse to believe you've done anything wrong. Others see it differently, Amy. I saw the concern on Amy's face as I continued. Have you ever wondered why you have trouble finding support for your ideas? The rumor mill has done a more than adequate job of informing all employees about your business practices and ethics, and, I might add, without a word from me. A mask froze on Amy's face. I was stepping into territory she wanted to leave alone. All they see is a whore making her way to the top, opening her legs to anyone who can help her climb another rung on the corporate ladder, leaving more deserving employees to pick up the scraps in her wake. They know you're the cuckold in our marriage, and it kept me from working there until I realized that I had kept my dignity and their respect the day I ended the relationship and divorced you. If I had accepted your offer, I would have effectively told everyone that everything you did was wonderful, and now instead of a cuckold husband, I would have turned into a cuckold employee. I would have lost their respect and my efficiency would have gone straight down the toilet. Tears appeared in the corners of Amy's eyes again as I gave my negative assessment of her proposal. Her faith in her own rightness was beginning to crack. I don't believe you, Sam. I've shown that I'm willing to work hard, that all I've done is take a powerful position to get my way. I'm more than capable of doing the job, or Jason wouldn't have assigned it to me. I shook my head, anger and irritation replaced by sadness. I realized now that Amy really did believe her press, that her mind, perhaps out of self-preservation, refused to acknowledge the truth of her situation. Did Jason come to you on his own with the takeover offer, or did you push him? Amy wiped her face with the napkin she'd taken from her purse and straightened up hopefully. It doesn't matter what you or anyone else thinks. I'm not Jason's puppet. I approached him, and I have to say that he put up a lot of barriers until he let me go to the board and present my proposal. I nodded in appreciation. Exactly as I had envisioned the merger happening. Exactly as I thought it would. Let me ask you this. Did Jason entertain you when he gave in to your desire to talk to the board members? If Amy's eyes didn't give her away immediately, that sigh decided her fate. Trying to gather her thoughts, she asked, "Why do you think that?" I grinned at her reaction to my question. "Do you know why I was good at my job, Amy?" I continued the rhetorical question. "Ever since I can remember, I've been making profiles on everyone I meet, and before you embarrass yourself, that includes you. The problem with your profile is that I didn't consider my love for you. I foolishly assumed that since you loved me, I could trust you unconditionally. That mistake cost me dearly, and I changed your profile because, as my old grandfather used to tell me, there's no point in getting older, son, if you're not going to get smarter. I assess people not only by what they say, but also by what they then do, and if it fits their profile, then I can work either with them or around them. Either way, I know how to make the best out of any situation. Knowing Jason's character, I don't think he cares if you succeed or fail. If you fail, he'll wipe his hands of you and point to the board of directors, saying they're the ones who approved your proposal." I saw a glimmer of light in her eyes as I continued. "If you succeed, he'll get the credit for bringing a promising executive into a position that increased profits. He will win whether you succeed or not. So don't think you have support from the top. Jason doesn't care if you're smart enough to put the boots on the right feet or stupid enough to believe you can pull off this coup. As long as you keep him entertained, he'll be satisfied. You're on your own, Amy. A little fish in a big pond, and the piranhas are hungry. Amy clutched her napkin convulsively. Everything I had said had a basis, and she must have been frightened at the thought of getting into more serious trouble than she had anticipated, but, as was her manner, she closed her eyes to the fact that she could not secure herself. So you don't think I can handle it? I shrugged my shoulders. No, Amy, no, I don't think so. I know you can't do it. I noticed the anger building up in Amy, but continued. It would be one hell of a Saturn V rocket that would launch you straight from your VP position into corporate oblivion. Where will your precious safety be then, Amy? I turned away from her to calm myself. From what I hear, all you managed to do while you were there was spin your wheels and create so much smoke that everyone else is struggling to do their jobs. I turned to see Amy's reaction. I'd be surprised if the next shareholders meeting doesn't announce a 25% drop in quarterly profits. But that's all speculation. You can put any color you want on this charade, but it all comes down to your reasons for starting it. Let me tell you what I know and what I think. You told me that you loved me, and that you did it for both of us. Amy visibly flinched at my tirade, but nodded in agreement. But, by your own admission, it was all for your safety. It had nothing to do with mine or ours. If you loved me as you say you'd do everything you could to keep me from driving myself to my death. What did you say? I was a heart attack waiting for its time and place. I waited until she came to her senses and continued. You didn't try. Or if you did, you weren't very convincing. No, you just got ahead of yourself and put fear into me, expecting me to start throwing daisies. You could have threatened me with divorce if I hadn't slowed down and thought about us. I'm sure that would have gotten me thinking in the right direction, and I know your infidelity certainly helped. That's why I'm here now, and it feels great. I love you, Sam. I didn't want to divorce you. You didn't want to divorce me, but you were willing to sit back and let me wear myself out to death? Does that sound really loving? I finished sarcastically. I smiled inwardly. Amy couldn't refute my argument and couldn't look at me. I didn't mean what I said then, and I love you even now. I regret a lot of what I said to you then. My grim face must have indicated doubt. I'm also sure Amy herself believed what she was saying. I have no doubt that in your own way you love me, Amy, but that has nothing to do with our situation. Don't you realize that? Now I can't trust you in my personal relationships or in business. I decided to end this discussion. Now that's what I understand. You finally made it to the top. You have no one else to entertain to climb even higher. You'll have to wait until Jason retires or fades into oblivion before you get in line to be CEO, and you've decided this is a good opportunity to solidify your position in the company and claim the coveted CEO position. Amy wanted to object, but I held her back. That's where your little plan to take over my old firm is going. You're taking over and seducing me to work my ass off again to feather your own nest. I'm stunned that you actually expected me to obey and do your bidding. When I kicked you out the first time, I thought it was obvious that I wasn't a wuss. Then I realized that maybe it was my fault for setting you up to fail. I could see that Amy was struggling to stay on her feet. One moment I was saying it was all her fault, and now I was taking responsibility. You're talking nonsense, Sam. I think you're the one who has it backwards. I hung my head and sighed in frustration. Okay, Amy. You've heard the saying about being cruel to be kind. Well, I wasn't being kind. I was leading you down the garden path and actually had to cut you down and kick you in the cunt while you were lying there. It's cruel to be kind. But instead I went to Jason and made him fulfill his promise to make you the family doctor. And he did. I loved you so much that I didn't want to see you hung out to dry, even though you deserved it. I made the mistake of making you think there was a chance of coaxing me back into your arms. Your little love cards on my birthday, Christmas, and any other occasion you could think of have proven that time and time again. I got up to check the sauce and added more water to the already nearly dry pot. If I had done what I had to do, you would have disappeared to some unknown place where no one knows you, licked your wounds and started over, hopefully getting a little wiser. That's exactly what I want you to do. Just walk away and start over. The tears came in rivulets again. You'll have to go back to some secretarial job, but at least it won't be as bad as what will happen if you stay and try to fight it. You'll be lucky if your position lets you lick stamps while you're entertained by some post office jerk at the sorting table. I watched Amy as my words reached her. I tried to speak thickly, and it made me sad to see defiance instead of humility on her face. I know I hurt you, Sam. I berate myself for it every day, but what you just said is just evil. You don't believe in me at all, and yet I believe in you. Well, if you think so, then sit and watch, and I'll show you how it's done. At this moment, there was a knock at the door. Come in, I exclaimed irritably. Is everything all right, Sam? Sorry if I'm interrupting. I sighed that I had lost my temper and looked at the clock, not realizing how much time had passed. I'm sorry, Vivian. Please don't come in. Amy was just leaving. I glared at her and waited for her to get up. Amy looked at Vivian standing in the doorway of the living room. She was 5, maybe 10 years younger, and just as beautiful as in the picture. Slim, with long, flowing dark blonde hair. I couldn't help but notice the look on Amy's face when she realized what she had come for. She turned toward me. I just stared at her blankly, then her gaze stopped on the food simmering on the stove and returned to me. Tears began to drip as it dawned on me what it all meant. I looked over my shoulder at the dinner I was making for myself and Vivian and realized what Amy was thinking. What? You thought it was for you? I told you from the beginning that this wasn't a society gala, so don't take offense at me for inviting a friend over for dinner. You and I broke up years ago. The only reason I let you come here is to knock some sense into your stupid head. Amy jumped up with her head down and rushed past Vivian, muttering, Tell Megan I'll be waiting for her in the car. I hope I didn't make things worse. Vivian looked at the receding Amy. I'll leave, and you guys will deal with it. Can I tell Jillian I don't need her as a babysitter? This has nothing to do with you. I'm just glad you showed up exactly when you did. I hugged Vivian and kissed her cheek. You can put down the pasta and watch it for a minute. I have to tell Megan that our meeting is over and that she can take Amy home. As I walked out onto the back terrace and saw Megan dozing in the afternoon sunlight disappearing behind the landscape, it occurred to me that Amy's words were true. Now that Amy was vice president, she'd dislodged all the blocks that were getting in the way of my ideas, and it got me thinking, how do you like the view from your window? It's just like you said, Sam, just amazing. Megan smiled as she closed her eyes. How did it go in there? I didn't hear any gunshots. Not great, I'm afraid, and she's not going to back down. She's in the car right now waiting for you. Can I ask you something? Sure, Sam, you know you can ask me anything. I smiled weakly. How do you see your future at work? How ambitious are you, Megan? Megan's eyes widened at such an unusual question. I'm not quite sure what you're getting at, Sam. But if that's what I'm thinking, I'd like to get Amy's job first. She rose from her chaise. I know I can do it, and do it well, but I don't intend to compromise my virtue to get it. Why do you ask? I lowered my head and thought. I think it is time to put an end to this three-ring circus. Then I uttered with grim determination. Can you get in touch with Kevin Paxton and meet me in town? Let's say in 3 weeks, because I might have an offer for both of you. Megan nodded in agreement. I led Megan back into the cottage and she saw Vivian standing at the stove. Poking me in the ribs with her elbow, she whispered, Now I see why Amy ran away from here with her tail tucked. Old dog? The look on Megan's face made me smirk. She's gorgeous, and I'm sure she was the final nail in the lid of Amy's coffin. Jesus, Sam. Amy is out of her league and never has been. Hell, I'm not even in her league. The poor girl must be licking her wounded pride right now. I nodded to Megan, appreciating Vivian's beauty. And she's just as gorgeous on the inside. Vivian looked up when I introduced Megan. It's nice to meet you. There seem to be so many women in Sam's life that I'm not sure he has room for me, she said hesitantly. Megan chuckled. Don't worry about the other women you'll see Sam with. He's the only man. Of that you can be sure, darling. And as far as I can tell, he's got his eye on your ass. Watch your six. Sam can be a real Casanova when he finds a woman worthy of his interest. I don't know what Megan meant by that. I wasn't around her in any social situation for her to make such a statement. I felt my face turn red. I think you've said enough for one evening, Megan, and it's time to leave. I was nudging her toward the front door when she looked over her shoulder and made one last salvo. If you're smart, Vivian, you won't let this guy out of your hands. Kissing me on the cheek one last time, she bid me farewell. Be smart. I'll see you in 3 weeks. Vivian and I sat with a glass of Merlot on the back patio and watched the waterfowl float by without a care in the world. We chatted about what had happened during the day, and I told Vivian all the sordid details of my marriage to Amy and how she had ruined it. You don't want to do that, do you, Sam? I shuddered at what I was about to do. No, Vivian, you're right. I don't want to do it, but it has to be done. I can't sit back and let everyone lose their jobs because I took the easy way out. No matter how much it hurts me, I have no choice. Vivian was silent for a while, but then stated, If you must know, Amy still holds a candle to you. I looked at Vivian and almost laughed. I knew that before, but I don't think so now. Not after what I said to her this afternoon. I tormented her as hard as I could, but I don't think it made any difference. Vivian smiled. For all your toughness, it's obvious you care about others, Sam, including Amy, and believe me, we women really appreciate that quality in our men. I had nothing to reply to that and went back to devouring my beer. Vivian patted my arm to reassure me. If I'm not wrong about you, I'm sure you'll do the right thing for everyone. I nodded with a grim premonition, but I'm afraid not everyone will think so. You didn't make her bed, Sam, she did. And now she's going to have to lie in it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Vivian was silent for a minute or two, and I was deep in my own thoughts when she caught me off guard. Speaking of beds, when are you going to show me yours? To say that statement came out of the blue is an understatement, and it caught me off guard. Hey, Vivian giggled. Megan told me that if I want to claim you, I'd better keep my feet up. What did she say? If you're smart, Vivian, you won't let this guy out of your hands. Well, I'm the one who took hold of someone I thought was worth holding on to. So you're interested in more than just a platonic relationship? I know it sounded like I was a fresh out of high school teenager tasting the water. I didn't mean to make a mistake. As you can see, my track record with women isn't promising. I had a hard time looking her straight in the eye when I said that. Vivian giggled. You're blushing, Sam? My ears erupted in flames of fire, and a sheepish grin appeared on my face. You sure know how to make a guy feel stupid. I rubbed my face and eyes with both hands, more to regain control of myself than to feel tired. That day when I walked into your store and saw you looking absolutely shattered and accepted my help, I felt like a knight in shining armor coming to rescue a damsel in distress. The smile on her face was priceless. You were my knight that day on his trusty steed, and you still are. Vivian leaned over and kissed me affectionately on the cheek. I have depended on you since that day. Now I understand why you've pitied me all these months. Vivian stopped, seeing the look of confusion on my face. It must have been hard for you when Amy showed you weren't wanted. Well, if it's any consolation, I need you, Sam. I haven't been this comfortable and relaxed since Greg died. Yes, that's a masculine trait. Amy didn't understand it, and I couldn't explain it either. Vivian patted my arm to reassure me. You've been good to me, Sam, and I want you to know I appreciate it. It wasn't until Megan committed her misdemeanor that I realized I had more than just friendly feelings for you, so what do you say? Do you want to take it to the next level? Vivian's face reflected sincerity mixed with hope. Well, ma'am, if you insist, I'll have to show you my etchings, I finished with a sly grin. Vivian's face brightened. To hell with the engravings. I'm more interested in what tool you use to make these etchings. We both burst into laughter as she stood up and headed for the door, saying, Let's hurry to the bedroom. I saw Kevin and Megan watching me walk into the restaurant. My look must have said everything about my mood. Kevin stood up and held out his hand. Long time no see, old friend, so good to see you after all these years. What are you doing to yourself? You look 10 years younger. I smiled, taking Kevin's hand. It's good to see you again, I'm totally fine. How's life? Oh, average to average. Can't complain because no one ever listens. I smiled at Kevin's words and kissed Megan on the cheek. You look as radiant as ever, my dear. I don't know what you found in that brute, but I hope he treated you well. Megan chuckled. He may be rude, but I like rude types. How do you know? I smiled. Because as I told Amy, I'm a people watcher, my dear, and I saw your reaction when I asked Kevin to be here tonight. I think you two would make a formidable team. Kevin grinned at my assessment. Speaking of which, what kind of offer do you have for us? I chuckled. Always from the hip, Kevin. You'll never change. Okay, business first, and then we can relax and enjoy the food. As the waitress served us drinks, I began my speech. As you know, the company is in dire straits, and if nothing is done soon, everyone will be looking for work elsewhere. As you and I have already found out, there isn't much choice here. I pulled several folders out of my briefcase and held out the white one to Kevin. If you disagree or have anything to add, feel free. While Kevin studied the folder I was holding, I opened the second one. Here's a list of people you need to get on your side. I'll leave it up to you how you do it. Kevin flipped through the folder he already had in his hands. At a glance, I can see that you have thought this proposal through very well. As far as I can tell, you're going to attack not only JPL and Amy, but also Dobson Inc. and Jason. I saw the look on Kevin's face and realized what he was thinking. We don't have a choice, Kevin. Since Dobson bought out JPL, we'll have to attack from both sides. My original ideas were all about JPL. Now we need to focus on Dobson's board of directors if we want to succeed here. If you can get the board on your side and Megan can contribute to JPL, we have a chance, albeit a small one. Kevin handed the folder to Megan. You're not kidding when you talk about Sam. Skinny is still an understatement, more like anorexic, but I see possibilities. I think it wouldn't hurt to pass it on to Jack Deacon. He can count beans, can't he? I thought for a moment, then nodded grimly. I know he's a genius when it comes to beans, but if you think he's the one we need? After all, he and I didn't get along. I'm not sure exactly why, but he just let me know that I wasn't his favorite coworker. Megan nodded, looking through the folder. I agree with Kevin. Jack needs to get involved. When it comes to creative accounting, he's just a master. I'll talk to him and listen to him first. Kevin picked up the second folder and began reading, looking over the list of names. I'm not sure I can meet some of them, let alone invite them aboard? I smirked at Kevin's doubts. What do you think I've been doing for the last 3 weeks? There's one name, Slovak. I haven't been able to contact him, and if he's not on board, none of this makes sense. How in God's name did you become so influential? Influential, for crying out loud. If I was that good, Slovak would be eating out of the palm of my hand. I held out another folder to Kevin. This is a list of meetings you've set up with everyone but Slovak. Megan looked up from the folder she was reading. Isn't Slovak Jerry Cambridge's uncle? Maybe he can make an appointment with him? Kevin and I looked at each other, shrugged, and Kevin asked, Is there anything you can think of and organize, honey? Megan smiled. I have a meeting with Jerry tomorrow about the itinerary and plans for the upcoming trip. I'll ask him then. That information made me feel a little better, and I finished. I took the liberty of organizing the times and dates on your behalf. Shit is starting to smell even in the higher echelons of government. I laid out my concerns, but at that point I didn't have a workable plan. For this one, I brought in a bunch of markers. There's still a lot of detail work to be done, and I think we need to get everyone we can together to finalize the final version. Megan shook her head. I can't believe Jason hasn't seen all this happening. Ooh, he knows it's going to be fine, I scoffed. I think he just doesn't care. He's got a scapegoat, and Amy's in for a horrible surprise when he drives a knife into her back. Megan wrinkled her nose sympathetically. Amy may be a selfish slut, but I don't think she deserves to be hanged and quartered like that. I nodded in agreement. I think you'll have to act before the next quarterly shareholders meeting to have any chance of staying clean. So we have to act now, and do it surgically fast, neat, and clean. Impress the big shots, and we'll be home and hosed. Kevin shook his head. Sounds like you think we're going to take you up on your offer. I smiled again. Come on, Kevin, think about it. What do you have to lose? If Amy was able to pitch them her ideas, it'll be a walk in the park for you. You haven't found another job that matches your abilities, have you? I know you have a beef with Amy. I'm also pretty damn sure Jason is definitely not on your Christmas list. I nodded toward Megan. And that little mink seems to believe in you as much as I do. I'm sure you'll take that piece between your teeth and run with it. Hell, I've already done all I can do, and all you have to do is bring home the bacon. Kevin laughed along with Megan, all tied up with a neat pink ribbon. He stated wryly. Megan frowned. What about Jason? He's not giving up without a fight. And I'm sure he has the backing to destroy this ship before he can even get the first shot off? She remarked, looking through the second folder. I wrinkled my face in an evil grin. Leave that bastard to me. You won't even see him, let alone deal with him. All you have to do is keep Amy busy so she doesn't realize what's going on and do something stupid like commit professional suicide, destroying everyone else in the process. A smirk appeared on Megan's face. She's the last of our worries. After your conversation the other day, she's got her head so far down she doesn't know what day it is. Vivian stung her, and she's vowed to prove you wrong. I can tell you, Sam, you really messed with her head. I had to interfere with a lot of her suggestions to head office to make her look even slightly competent. Kevin, Megan, and I enjoyed our meal while discussing our plans. As we said our goodbyes, we agreed to meet in 2 days with other people to discuss the final version. The meeting was heated, to say the least. Megan and Kevin had gathered a half-dozen conspiratorial friends to help bring the puppy home. Jack Deacon was one of them, and, as I predicted, Jack was hostile from the start, though he sat and listened to what we had to say. "Let me see the financial packet," he demanded, and we all waited, holding our breath as he ran his finger across the page, marveling at the speed with which he could add and subtract. "That's utter nonsense, Beckman. There's no way you can justify those numbers." I looked at him, and my first reaction was to lose my temper at his negativity, but I replied, managing to contain my anger. "They're just estimates, projected approximations." Deacon smiled sarcastically. "Don't quit your day job, Beckman, and I've seen more accurate weather forecasts from the Weather Bureau." It was time to lay out the money. I told Amy I knew the approach to difficult people and it was time to put it out or shut up. "Listen, Deacon, can I call you Jack? I know we haven't seen each other since Amy's unconventional handling of things, but I know you're good at what you do, and that's why you're here. You're the best ever." I could see his chest heaving and I was sure I was on the right track. Jack grinned understandingly. "I may seem like a simple laborer to you, but I'm not so socially inferior that I don't realize I'm being patronized." I gritted my teeth irritably. I know that sounded patronizing, but it doesn't make my words any less true. I looked around the room, addressing everyone present. What are these people going to do when the next shareholders' meeting is held? I personally don't care if you agree with this proposal or not. I can leave and go back to my life out of town, and you guys can keep figuring out how to get in line for unemployment benefits. You're a genius when it comes to numbers, Jack. You're in a position where you can get a job in no time. But what about them? We need you to do your thing, get creative, and make those projections work. I could see the gears stirring, and, barring a feeble attempt to indulge his conscience, he looked concerned. "So this isn't some scam to move your wife up the corporate ladder?" I smiled sadly and chuckled, shaking my head. So that was what his claims were to me. "No, Jack, definitely not. She's my ex-wife, and if we manage to pull this thing off, she'll be lucky to shuffle papers in some dark, windowless room. I made a mistake when I divorced her. I should have burned the bitch, but I didn't, and I regret where it led. I'm here to try and correct that mistake. Whether this takeover works or not, both her and Jason will be a thing of the past. I guarantee you that." Jack replied, looking around the room, and then looked through the folder once more. "You know, Sam, I've done so much and so little for so long. Now I have the full opportunity to do everything with nothing." He looked up and a grin a mile wide appeared on his face. "What's the deadline for this miracle to be ready?" I looked at Kevin. "I need it ready by 3 o'clock tomorrow." He replied cautiously. "Oh shit." He snapped back, bulging his eyes. "I'm fine, Kevin, but I think even God would have a hard time getting this mess sorted out by then." We all looked at each other, and I began to worry that my brilliant plan might go awry. What he said next threw me and probably everyone else in the room into confusion. "I want a sign on my desk that says God if I succeed," joked Deacon. After a moment's thought, Kevin grinned. "I will personally engrave it, and everyone will kneel at your feet and pay their respects if you bring me those statuettes by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon." Everyone present, including me, breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay, guys, we're burning the midnight oil. Call who you need to apologize to and get to work." Megan came up to me and asked if I could invite some of the girls from the typing group over for collation and gophering. "It's your choice, Megan. Show us what you can do. I'm only here to help with any questions you might have, but it's up to you now," I explained, holding out my hands to show that I was handing over control to her. "Oh my God," she exclaimed, looking at Kevin. "Sam's right, honey. You need to pull yourself together and show everyone that you can be counted on in a crisis situation. Kevin and I stepped back as Megan took a deep breath and got to work. An hour later, she was already busy organizing groups and brainstorming ideas from those who had them. Jack argued with her until she snapped, "I don't care how many of your guys you have to bring in to meet the deadline, Jack. You know what we're up against, so just get it done, okay?" Kevin chuckled. "I think you were right, Sam. She's a little workaholic." I smiled at how Kevin was obviously proud of his little ball of fire. I slapped him lightly on the arm. "I never doubted it, Kevin." Saying that, I tapped my index finger on my temple in agreement and set off to help. I entered Jason's office and walked past his shocked secretary. "I'm sorry, sir, but you can't go in there." Jason looked at her in disgust and waved his hand. "It's okay, Lynn. What does this Beckman intrusion mean?" It was obvious that Jason was more than upset that I was standing in front of his desk again. "That's no way to start a negotiation, Jason. I would think a man of your caliber and business acumen would know when to be a little more contrite." A mask of menacing ingratiation appeared on my face. Jason leaned back in his chair and waited for me to continue. I, on the other hand, didn't want to make him think about what would happen next, knowing full well that in the battle of wills, the loser is the one who speaks first. Jason finally paused, beads of sweat running down his forehead. "Are you just going to stand there all day staring at me, or are you going to tell me why you're here?" He finished with a nervous glance at his watch. "I have a meeting with the shareholders in an hour." "I'm here to help you pack, asshole," I finally informed him. "And where am I supposed to go?" It was obvious that Jason didn't like the way this confrontation was going at all. "So then, I don't care where you go as long as you get out of here by the end of the day." I curled my lips in a smirk. "But I think you should go to another state, the other side of the country." "What if I'm not going anywhere, asshole? I'm only a couple years away from retirement, and I have no intention of giving up my lucrative retirement package for someone like you." I shook my head. "You have two options, asshole. You can get up, hand in your resignation, and walk away with what you have in your pockets and nothing else, or you can stay and watch me dismantle your pathetic life into bricks. That goes for your family life too. And as far as I've been able to find out, you'll be lucky if you have enough money left over to buy a cup of coffee." Jason frowned. "I did what you wanted, Beckman. I gave Amy a chance to be vice president, and as you know very well, she now controls JPL. So why are you suddenly making threats? It's no secret that we've never met, but I've always been under the impression that you keep your word. So what made you change your mind about bringing the past back to haunt me?" I leaned forward and placed both hands on his desk so that his face was only a few inches from mine. "You changed my mind, you son of a bitch. I kept my end of the bargain until you went and broke it, and now you're paying. You screwed Amy over in more ways than one. You let her go in front of the board and lay out your proposal when you knew it was doomed to fail. You saw a chance to kill two birds with one stone. You knew she would turn to me for help to turn the company around, and you knew damn well I wouldn't help her. So you broke our agreement, and now I demand full payment." Sweat trickled down Jason's face as he listened to me. Everything I said was true, and he must have been puzzled how I knew he'd set her up. "I didn't break our deal, Beckman. She came to me, and I did nothing more than give her a chance to prove herself. If anyone is to blame for her being in this position, it's her." "Don't mess with my head, you low-life scumbag," I said, sweeping some gizmos off his desk with my left hand in anger. "You had every chance to make her back down. Hell, it's clear to even an idiot with a fifth-grade education that without you, she had no chance of getting in front of the council members and making a fool of herself." Pointing a finger in his face, I continued, "It was your choice, and you made it wrong. It is now up to you to correct it. You resign or you sit back and enjoy having your life completely ruined." Jason's face reflected a whole scene of emotion, and I was enjoying the concert immensely. I stood my ground and watched as he went through his options. "I highly doubt you have the necessary data on me to do what you're threatening to do." I was tickled to watch him mentally go through all the doors and find them securely locked. "Do you really think I've been sitting my ass down for the last few years? Not only do I have all those low-level affairs you were involved in before you ruined my marriage, I've dug up others over the years. Corporate fraud and embezzlement, not to mention two. It was just a bluff, but I figured since he was so corrupt, it wasn't unreasonable to assume he'd have more irons in the fire. Choice, Jason, jail or retirement?" I watched his eyes dart around the room as it dawned on him that the only door I'd left open for him was his office door, and it was waiting for him to leave. Kevin Paxton is talking to your board of directors at this very moment, and he has a prospectus that will turn your world to shit. And when I get out of here, I'm going to head straight over there and give everything I've got to your horny ass. At that, poor Jason finished and pressed the intercom button. Lynn, come here with a notepad and pencil. I need to type a letter right away. I walked over to his wine cabinet and poured myself a scotch. You don't have to stay, Beckman. You win. I'll be gone by the end of the day. I was sipping my drink when Jason's secretary walked in and sat down at his desk to take dictation. No problem, Jason, buddy. I don't have anything urgent right now. I'll be happy to drop you an email. Lynette could feel the tension in the air as she waited for Jason to start dictating to her. When he finished, she could barely contain her laughter and quickly walked out of the office. I saw her reaction and knew Jason wouldn't have time to gather his personal belongings and leave the building. As a farewell, I called out to him as he walked out of his office door for the last time. I hear the weather is nice at the South Pole this time of year. I'm sure I have no desire to look for you there. Oh, and Jason, have a good day. Lynette returned a few minutes later and put her arms around my neck. Thank you, Mr. Beckman. Thank you so much. I jerked back in confusion. Wait, lady, what am I being thanked for? Tears came to Lynette's eyes as she calmed down. Jason tried to blackmail me. He's been hitting on me. So far, it's only been hints, but I think he was planning to increase the pressure if I didn't tell. I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you've done for me. I was furious that Jason had gotten away with it. I was right. Amy had served her time, and Jason was looking for her replacement. I decided that maybe Jason had finally decided his fate and now his marriage was in jeopardy. If all goes according to plan, he will only ask you to do your job as best you can. He is a fair and honest man who values the loyalty of his employees. Lynette gave me another kiss on the cheek. Now you're forever on my Christmas list, and I'll try to talk my husband into naming our next son after you. She grinned. Thanks again for your help. She handed me an envelope. I have to say, I have never in my life had as much fun writing a letter as I did this time. I walked into the same office Jason had walked out of 6 months ago. Good morning, Lynn. Is the boss home? Good morning, Mr. Beckman. Yes, Mr. Paxton is expecting you. And as I reached for the door, she finished. Mr. Beckman? You were right. He's everything a secretary could want in a boss. Thanks again. I grinned as I opened the door. My pleasure, Lynn, and call me Sam. Mr. Beckman was my father, I smirked. Lynette giggled and waved her hand at me. So how does it feel to be the CEO of one of the most profitable companies in the stock market as of last quarter's results? I asked, sinking into one of the comfortable office chairs. Sam, you old bastard, where the hell have you been? How the hell are you doing? I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you've done for everyone here, especially Megan and me. She still pinches herself every morning to make sure it's not a dream. I raised an eyebrow interestedly. Ooh, really? And how do you know that for sure? You mean waking up next to her? Is there a mini merger planned here? I joked. Kevin shrugged. Right now we're still in the negotiation stage, but a deal will probably happen in the near future. I'm sure Megan would love for you to come to the signing. And from what I hear, you have a little filly you're nursing as well? I burst out laughing. Same thing, and that's exactly where I left off. You had a business to save, and I had a business to build. Vivian has certainly had a good upbringing. A fine thoroughbred horse if I've ever seen one. I have to admit, if I ever get the chance, I'll hitch a ride with her. Kevin leaned back in his chair as our cheerful banter subsided and asked with a more serious expression, Have you heard about Amy? I felt my face grow solemn. Yes, Megan called me the day she was taken to the hospital. Apparently the whole thing had become too much for her and she just lost her temper. Megan asked if I could go that day to see how she was feeling and maybe fix a couple bridges. I didn't see the point, at least not until she got professional help, and my being in front of her would only make her condition worse. Kevin nodded and shrugged. Yeah, you're probably right. I think Megan felt a little sorry for her, but then that's a woman for you. I think she's going to offer her an entry-level position at JPL, maybe something like a secretary. I hope that doesn't offend your sensibilities. I shook my head, frowning. Hell no. I don't hate her. And to tell you the truth, I don't even like her anymore. She's just a person I once knew, and I hope she straightens up and moves on with her life. Kevin leaned back in his chair. So no desire to go back? I can get you a good job with a great financial package? I grinned. Just not on your life, buddy. And besides, you don't need me. From what I hear, you have God working for you now. Just then, Kevin burst into laughter. Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about Jack. He got his plaque in the respect of everyone who works here. You were right. He's a real math genius. I have to admit, he was a ringleader for a while. And I would literally pile into a board meeting an hour before the shareholders' meeting when he handed me the financial report from our prospectus. Kevin lowered his eyes and began to chuckle. What's so funny? I was just thinking about how Jack looked when some of the girls were sneaking up on him and staring at him. Let's see how socially bankrupt he is when he tries to deal with women with his math formulas. If he succeeds, I'll believe he's a god. I burst into laughter. I'd love to be there. Besides, I would have loved to attend the board meeting as well, but I had more unpleasant business to attend to. While you were grooming the board members, poor Jason was sweating at the very table you now occupy. Kevin's smile was hard to ignore. Same thing, if you ever need a job, let me know. I shook my head again. I already have what I want. Vivian and I have opened and run our little family resort. I'm here to offer you corporate rates for Thanksgiving weekend. I thought maybe you could throw in some good-natured contests and promote team building. Kevin nodded approvingly. I think we can come to an agreement. Perhaps a fishing contest or two would promote team building. Epilogue. Vivian and I were invited to Kevin and Megan's wedding, and now they have two wonderful boys. They are still a team to be reckoned with in the business world. At Christmas, we get cards from Lynn and his family. She also talked her husband into naming their next child after me. Her name is Samantha, short for Sam. Jason hasn't been heard from since his wife threw all his clothes on the lawn and turned on the sprinklers. Jason's Elvis autographed guitar turned into a necklace for his favorite little garden gnome after Nancy dropped it on his head. I assume he hunts penguins in Antarctica to keep warm, but don't tell me that. It's just a rumor. And Amy? After getting the help she needed to get over what Jason did to her, she accepted Megan's offer of an entry-level secretary/girlfriend job. She sold the ridiculously luxurious mansion, leaving her with enough money to buy a modest apartment within walking distance of work. She'll never be part of an elite business environment again, but she has her own home to pay for even if she has to work to support herself until retirement. I talked to her at a corporate Thanksgiving party they threw at the lake. She was a little reluctant to come until Megan convinced her that she needed to relax a little. We chatted for a bit and she apologized for her arrogance and admitted that she was out of line. I also apologized for violating her safety, but I didn't see how I could do that without jeopardizing everyone else's jobs. She told me that after therapy she realized how stupid her thinking had been. I was pleased to hear her laugh when I told her about Jason leaving. I think she had a relaxing weekend and spent most of it sunbathing with coworkers. I don't know what her social life is like. Megan told me that she occasionally goes on dates with some girls, but rarely stays there for long. Truth be told, I don't have time to even think about it, let alone worry about it much. It's her life she created, and she has to live with it. 6 months later, Vivian and I got married and moved her and Bessie into my cottage. I watched as she took a framed photograph of her late husband out of her suitcase, stood looking at it for a moment, then kissed it and placed it carefully in one of the drawers of her dressing table. The gesture touched me, and I walked over to her and, while she looked at me uncertainly, pulled out the picture of Glory and placed it on the dressing table. I think Greg deserves to see his wife happy, well-groomed, and loved, don't you? Vivian smiled and tearfully hugged me. You're a good man, Samuel. I think Greg and you would be the best of friends. My guardian angel has been working for me for a long time. I am so lucky to have not one, but two people in my life that I can confidently say they are my soulmates. I felt good. No, I felt great, better than I had ever felt in years. When Bessie is old enough, you'll have to tell her all the lovely things about her father. I think they both deserve it. Our little fishing resort is expanding more and more. Jillian now has an apartment attached to the store. Not that she always makes it to work on time, but at least we know where to catch her during peak periods. We consolidated our holdings and added more cabins with their own docks for weekend fishing enthusiasts. I spend most of my day in my shop doing routine boat repairs and general housekeeping. Vivian still runs the store, and Bessie is getting more and more tangled up under my feet. She is now 5 years old, and I am a father figure to her. After all, I am the only father she has ever known. We gave her a surprise last summer, what, her own little brother to mess around with. Brady has at least temporarily relieved her of our custody, and I have to admit I fuss over both of them. And my doctor. He's happy too, so remind me to send Amy a little thank you card on this occasion. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, so subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.